Alright guys, Arox here, and today we're reviewing FIFA 17.
Sports Gamers Online is the #1 source for the sports gamer.
FIFA season is upon us once again. Like a call from an old friend you began to forget about, grabbing the new FIFA is comfortable but not particularly adventurous. That being said, this year's FIFA looks to have the makings of being the best one yet, and here are a few reasons why. There are no major gameplay updates this year, no new buttons to learn. Instead, there's just a slight tweaking of the core mechanics. Speed remains one of the most important weapons in your arsenal. In FIFA 17, it feels like players are slower off their mark, but their top speed is higher. This makes it tricky to burst past a defender on the dribble, but it does give the advantage to fast attackers getting on the end of a through ball with the defense on their heels. Yes, it seems chip through balls are back. Besides pace, strength finally begins to play a more prominent role in the game. Players feel like they have weight and actually take up space, shielding the ball or using their body to keep an attacker from making a run. Weak players will struggle in central areas of the pitch where there are more bodies to contend with. Just like in real life, you can't stack your midfield with 5'8" attacking mids because you'll be overrun by players like Matic, Pogba and Vidal. Maybe someone should let Arsene Wenger know. And speaking of shots fired, shots feel better. For the first time I can remember, shots consistently stay low and go towards the corners. Not only does this make it harder to save, but it looks much more realistic. There also seems to be just a little bit more zing on the ball when you strike it right. You also have to be smarter in possession. There's an old football mantra that you should play the way you're facing, even if it's to the goalkeeper. This rings true in FIFA 17 as blind passes are trickier than ever before. Less talented players often make horrible mistakes if commanded to kick somewhere behind them. The flip side is that it encourages build-up play to be slowed a tiny bit, while the best passers can put it on a dime if they've got time and space. Set pieces have been rewritten, but they're basically the same. Corners just have an aiming dot. Penalties have done away with the green and red timing bar. Instead, it's all about aiming and power. The more power, the more height, until you're firing the ball at a low-flying aircraft, Sergio Ramos style. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but then it becomes second nature. Only problem is that you can't get much power along the ground. All in all, the gameplay is fairly similar to FIFA 16, and only experienced players are likely to feel much difference. My only real problem is that players' movements felt stodgy and slow. The lack of acceleration really hurt the way I like to beat defenders. I'd also like to mention that the two-player skill games are heaps of fun. Couch play may be going the way of the dodo, but I was happy to hear that there would be two-player skill games running before a match, if you're playing with another person, of course. They seemed like a cool addition, but they're actually really fun. You can be on a team trying to work goals in 2v2 situations, or you can compete against each other. These are surprisingly competitive and addictive. It wouldn't be a FIFA release without people bemoaning the fact it looks the same as last year, but FIFA 17 should get a little bit less of that. I'm sure you've heard by now that FIFA 17 has been built with the Frostbite engine. But the reason EA promoted it so hard is because it makes a real difference. If nothing else, the reality dial has been turned up to ultra. And it shows in the small details, the beads of sweat, the follicles of hair, and Antonio Conte's piercing eyes. In fact, everything, even the atmosphere and the lighting, just feels more real, more of a simulation. Pictures do more than my words could, but I would just like to mention that they've finally updated the hair and beards for creative players. I'm someone who loves making characters, and EA have been using the same hair since 09 or maybe even earlier. Finally, I can make someone cool. Plus, David Luiz hair. Oh, and what's with refs pulling yellow cards from within their own chests? It makes me really uncomfortable. Career mode barely receives more than a cosmetic upgrade. There are some minor additions worth noting, however. Each club has its own set of expectations in 5 categories: domestic success, continental success, brand exposure, financial, and youth development. Depending on the club, you'll be judged more on some rather than others. So a team like Real Madrid will care more about trophies than youth, whereas a team like Borussia Dortmund expects at least some youth incorporation. There are also more ways to make and spend money. Signing a big name player may make a dent in your coffers, but his shirt sales might just help you recoup some of your losses. You can also choose the appearance of your manager for the first time by picking one of 12 presets. One kind of looks like Morgan Freeman. Now, while these additions are cool, it's kind of like adding a coat of paint to a wall to cover up a gaping hole. Now, maybe that's an exaggeration, but career mode is my favourite mode, and it has been consistently underdeveloped. The youth system has been almost exactly the same for years now, except it was flawed to begin with. Basically, a 60 rated scouted youth player, regardless of positions, will have all of his stats gravitate towards 60, including all of his physical stats like speed. And not only is speed one of the most important stats for wide players, it's not something you can train. You also still can't change positions or edit features to make them look less like sad mannequins. If you played career mode last year, it will be very familiar this year. Ultimate Team, FIFA's most popular game mode, is flashy but ultimately pretty much the same as well. There are more ways to earn packs, but that's due to the new game mode. Squad building challenges require you to build a specific team, say 9 players from 3 different nations at a minimum of 80 chemistry, in order to earn rewards. The catch is that once you submit the squad, they're gone forever. It's cool, but so far it seems like the rewards don't really outweigh the coins you could have made from selling the players outright. FUT Champions is another new feature that allows people to compete in online leagues for even bigger rewards. If you think you're a bit of a pro, this is a way to test yourself. Other than that, it's the same old, same old. Why mess with a winning formula? The pack opening animation is fantastic though, especially when you get a world-class player and they walk around from behind. A thing of beauty. Finally, we move on to FIFA 17's real hero, the journey. FIFA 17's version of NBA 2K's My Career, with a little bit of inspiration from Pele's movie thrown in. The journey is a rag to riches story starring 17-year-old Alex Hunter. Basically, it's the good old be a pro or play a career mode no one played, but it's couched in surprisingly impressive storytelling. Alex is a young man discovered by a scout as a boy. He must attend trials with his best friend Gareth, I have the most annoying voice ever and call everyone bruv, Walker, and eventually both sign for a Premier League club. You must fight for your place within the team, coming off the bench or going on a loan, eventually working your way up to winning trophies with your chosen club. Your responses to dialogue situations will either earn you more favour with the fans or with the manager, which is cool but hardly game changing. It's not Mass Effect, but it does have a really well executed story. Everything is spot on, from the acting to the exemplary music to the graphics. Players such as Harry Kane were consulted to give the story authenticity. And although the closest I've ever come to playing professional sport is in a video game, the journey is laced with a sense of realism. You feel for and with Alex, and his off-the-pitch relationships only deepen the desire you have to succeed on the pitch. It's a remarkable success considering that this is the studio's first attempt at such a game mode. My only concern is that while the story arc is really well constructed for Hunter's first season, I don't know how well it will cope for seasons down the track. I seriously doubt that the journey will be able to maintain that same level of engagement as it had in the first few hours. But that doesn't change the fact that the first season is a truly memorable gaming experience and one FIFA has been sorely missing. All in all, FIFA 17 will only ever stand out for one thing: the journey. The rest of the modes remained basically unchanged, and the gameplay experience tuning more than anything else. But the journey will probably attract new fans to the franchise, and it is a different dimension that pours in hours and hours of more playability. But in the end, FIFA 17 is very pretty, it's still very fun, and the journey gives the series some much needed heart. The final score is 8.5 out of 10. Now, if you like this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Sports Gamers Online if you haven't already. Have a good one. But do they do enough to revitalise a game mode that seems more and more neglected by EA and the fan base alike? Let's have a look. First up is Total Club Management. Total Club Management gives players a raft of objectives to fulfill based on club ownership priorities.